quick shaker overview S20 here. We're just going to go over some of the settings and features, and then we're going to showcase a print run. So we're here at the main menu. This is a simplified screen compared to our last variation, so it's pretty cool. We have our powder, our heat, our pre-temp. If we go here into Paraset, this is our current settings. We are using the XPD 924D printer, so keep that in mind with these settings, because you could use this S20 heater shaker on our other printers as well, the 1682 or the 724. And we have multiple menus here. We have our Paraset, which has, you know, pre-temp, heat temp, all the different settings we have here. We'll go over them in a second. We have our Paraset 2. These are for you know, different directions. We won't touch most of these for the most part. And then we have our Purify, as well as our init screen. This is for calibration. So normally when you get the S20 shaker, they do need to be calibrated, and this would be where to do it. So right out the gate, you have weight and roll. How this works is I would gray this out, and when it's gray, it's neutral, nothing's calibrated. For the weight, we're talking specifically about the basket down there. So when there's nothing on the basket and it's nice and clear, we're going to hit initial. And then with your left hand, you're going to push down on the basket all the way to the bottom position. And when it's at the lowest position, you're going to hit lowest. And then it's calibrated. You can let go of the basket, pull back up, and then you have the roll. So you would do the same thing for the roll. You would gray both of those out. And when the roll is in its initial position, if you see here, we're talking about the take-up roller down here. I'm not sure if you can see that when I lift it. Okay. So its neutral position needs to be down, and when it is, you would hit roll, and then you'd have someone lift up on that take-up roll, and you would hit highest, and then that would be calibrated. That calibrates the S20 shaker. Okay, so additionally, we have the I/O menu. This is to help troubleshoot. So if we see something on here, for instance, maybe the front sensor. So what am I talking about? You can see right here, there's a sensor. And this sensor, I'm going to put it up top. If I put my hand in front of it, let's take a look over here. Okay, so we see paper, and I remove my hand and it goes red. So red means it's not working or it's not in use, and green means it's working. So I'm putting my hand back in front of over and over again, and you see it's reading correctly. So if there's an issue with the machine, the I/O panel is to troubleshoot the issue, and it could work for any of the issues that are basically stated here. So maybe there's a fan issue, a roll issue, or a feed issue. Whatever the case, you can come here and see if the sensors are working appropriately. Now, one extra sensor that this machine has that the other version, the S10, does not, is a sensor for this. So when you open and close this, there's a little prong right here. I don't know if you see it. Okay. So if I go back a page, and let's say that I want to basically start a job, I just got to keep in mind that if I have settings running, so let's say I'm in auto and I have everything on, I'm going to turn off dusting though. If I open this, it's going to turn everything off, and that's a safety feature. Okay, so you just got to keep that in mind, and then once you close it, it turns it all back on. So that's just something extra you need to keep in mind with this machine, the S20. What other features do we have here with the S20? We do have this right here. So to open and close it, we have the little hydraulics over here. This unit uses 6 bulbs. It is easier to access the bulb terminals on this unit. You would need an Allen key in order to open and take these pads off, and that way you could undo the You see the ceramic blocks up there? I'm not sure if you could on this video, but there's ceramic blocks, and you're able to kind of finesse and take off the bulbs. So if you ever need to change it, it's super simple. It's just a few Allen keys to remove these blocks right here, these covers, and then it's kind of easy to use. Another thing that this unit has that the other unit does not, if we take a look down here, all right, let's unlock this bay. So we have the powder tray over here. The vacuum fan is within that bay. And then we have this right here with its sensor. So this is the exhaust. So any glycerin that starts to build up in the machine is actually going to come right over here. So before you would have to kind of clean this area out, but we definitely made that better here, and we have a much better design. And then this sensor would beep when it starts to get full. Additionally, we have this section over here. This is the opposite side of where we were looking. And you want to be careful with this area. If you're going to access this area or change the filters below, you want to make sure that the unit is off. This is an electrical box here. So I'm going to open it. There is a static device within this, so it's good to be careful here. So what are we looking at here? This is a specially designed box here that kind of, we have static over here, we have our fan over here, and I'll go more into depth here in a minute, and then this is the filter box that you'd be changing the filters on. So there's a tilt to this box which allows the glycerin to kind of go into the corner and funnel out correctly. We have the static device here, which basically, as you know, you're running your jobs through, it basically creates smoke, and as that smoke gets funneled through the device, through here, so you can see there's this connection here, and it goes down here. If you look inside there where you see the fan, we have this tube going further down into this box, and as the smoke travels through this box, the static device turns the vapor into a liquid, so it accelerates the speed at which it happens, and then as that gathers in here and it filters through the back, the additional fumes get spit through this filter box. So S20 and the 924D printing process, basically we are going to be printing some prints. You're going to need to let some slack build up here, and then when we have enough slack, and you can see that we gave it a little bit of space here, we're going to be able to feed it into the machine. There's a few variables here that we're going to need to follow, but basically when you're using the S20 shaker or any heater shaker, there's a process you need to follow at the beginning. There's a little bit you need to do in the middle when you're printing through a job, as you just need to kind of watch over the powder basket, and then there's finishing of the job, which will go over all these different steps. So start of the job, and keep in mind, you got to remember that on the S20 shaker there's that little sensor here, so if you're going to start anything in automatic, this either needs to stay down or this needs to close. Otherwise, when you open it, it's going to turn everything off as a safety feature, so keep that in mind. So we have the slack we need. We're going to just turn on in manual fan. This is the start of a job. I'm turning on the fan so that, and you can see this little, you know, the suction here. When we're running the job, we're going to feed it. So give myself a little room here, try not to damage any of these, and then put it through. I'm going to help guide this up and through so that I don't damage the jobs. Now normally I would put a little more slack, but that's fine. As long as we're in manual mode, it's not going to drop the fan. So you got to remember, when you're in auto mode, if you have this cover open, it's going to drop the fan. Alright. So now here is where I would let it print a little bit more, so that we could then drop the powder here It looks like it's about to start. Here we go. Or in this case, I'll run it a little bit. All right, and that's going to allow me to make sure that there's going to be powder on here, but not only that, there's media guards. And these media guards need to be set properly so that when you introduce the powder, it doesn't just fall off as you're printing. So I'm in manual mode. I'm going to dust. All right, just dropping some dust. I'm just putting a little bit on, and that way there's a little bit of weight so that I could adjust the media. So I kind of just shook it a little bit, right? The media guards down here and over there are hugging the substrate. And then once that's set up, I can put a little bit more powder. And if you don't want to put more powder, you could always switch it to automatic mode and it'll start doing it on its own. You can actually see here the powder, and as you put enough powder, that's going to go up. It needs to be in the threshold between 70 and 100. If you see here. So eventually it'll start going up when there's enough powder. Now obviously I need to knock the powder in there to get that to continue. But we're going to wait till I have a little bit more slack and continue on. Okay, so as we're doing more prints, we've put some powder, and basically now we're going to be switching to automatic mode. So I'm going to hold the media with my left hand. I'm going to hit auto, just to make sure that nothing falls. Now all the features are on. Now I closed this because remember that sensor's right here. So now when there's enough slack and the sensor reads it, you can see it starts to move. Now the first few prints I didn't powder when I was sliding it through the tunnel because I was setting things up, but that's fine. This is just for showcase purposing. But now as it prints, you'll see it'll continue. And the process is your media gets checked by the sensor in auto. It goes through the powdering bay, so where that basket is. The powder rolls on it. It coats the PET film and the art with the powder. Now the powder should only stick to the pictures that you're printing because of the way that the ink is set up. And as it goes through the belt, only when the roller is rolling will the heat elements go full blast to properly cook the media. And as the media exits the tunnel, there's two sets of fans here. There's the back set right over here, that's for the end of the job, and then there's the front set, which is the cooling. As the media goes through here, now normally this is closed, so just to let you know, I have it open here, but you don't need it closed, you can leave it open, it's up to you. But as the media is coming out and you put it through the cooling tunnel, there's then the take-up roller. So the media will go down and around the take-up roller, and then you would attach it to a core. And once you attach it to the core, you run it down and around, attach it to the core, this becomes an automated process. So you would just send your jobs, it goes through, and the only thing you would need to watch is the powder. Now there's two ways to do this as this is coming out. I like to use a core. This is usually, we take them from the old rolls that we have as we use the media. But essentially, you'd be taking this take-up reel off. I'm going to remove this piece. And I'm going to install the core. This will just make it easier at the end of the run. Put that in nice and tight. Tighten these a little. Okay, and then I'm going to take that core and put it right back into its native position here. And so you can see that the print is coming out and it's going to be cooled in this tunnel. And as it's cooled in the tunnel, you're going to start to see some slack. Now, once you start getting some slack here, it needs to run under and you need to attach it to this roller. So I'm going to show you that here in a second, once there's a little bit more slack. Okay, so basically, we're going to sit over here. We have some slack. I'm going to grab some tape. I'm just ripping off a piece. You're making sure that it's under this take-up bar. Okay, so I'm checking the print here. It feels good. It feels like it's properly cooked. Some of it at least, not the beginning part. So I'm taking this and I'm making sure it's as straight as possible. When you have this on and it's straight, you're just going to tape it to the core, and then that's it. You're in the midst of your job. So it becomes fully automatic now. You're sending the prints, you're getting them cooked and powdered, and then they're going to the take-up reel, ready to go, ready to put on your shirt basically after it gets the appropriate cook. If we take a look over here, I'm not sure how well you can see it. It's glossy, but it's smooth. This is what we call a good finish. And you don't want it to be too tacky, and you don't want it to be powdery. So we continue to send our jobs. We have it set up here to kind of go along the process. I can go do other tasks if I need to. And the only thing that I need to pay attention to is the powder basket. Because if I forget to have powder in there and somehow it runs out of powder in the bay, well, then you're just not going to be powdering your prints, and you obviously don't want that. But that's the gist of the start of a job. And then once we're done doing testing images here, I'm going to add the second part to this video, and this is going to be for the ending of a job and how that looks, how that process is. So we've arrived at the end of the job here. So I know I have extra media here, but this is just for showcasing purposes. And so basically, I'm going to hit pause. It's going to say cut media, enter. It's going to begin the cut here. Now normally I'd help guide it off, and I'll still, I guess, help a little bit, but there would be prints on it, so you'd help carefully guide it down and put it down. And as you can see, it's ticking the front sensor. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hit link off. So we're still in auto, but we're hitting link off. And what that's going to do is it's going to ignore the sensors, but it's going to do one extra thing. It's going to make these active. Okay, the fans in the back. So we're not talking about this right here. We're talking about the suction fans in the back. And this is going to help you guide the end of the job through. So we're letting those cook. We're letting this happen. You're watching for the zone. Okay. I'm going to let it keep doing its thing. Now, when the media is going up and through, when it gets close enough in there, let's say you had prints at the end of it, if you open this, it's going to go into this mode where it kind of freezes everything. So just keep that in mind going forward. So go, go, go. And then when there be enough slack going in, so you can see this is reaching its end, you're going to help guide it through. So it just doesn't fold over on itself. So let's say if there was prints on this ending piece, I'm just going to help guide it so it doesn't fall on itself. And so with my right hand, I'm holding it. I'm not letting it fall in on itself. And once it reaches a certain point, you just let it go. Like around there. And so now I'm not holding it, and it still hasn't fallen in on itself. So help guide the paper essentially through, and then it's gonna dump all the powder. You'll see it here. You can see the whole process happen. Perfect. Okay, and then it's pulling the media through. All right, and now once it gets past that portion, it's going to help you guide it with the suction, but you still want to keep grasp of the paper to make sure that it's properly sliding through. Because sometimes it'll let go once it lets go of the media on the opposite side, and it'll just slide through too fast and not cook the print. But if you're helping it, like so, you won't have that issue happen to you. Now normally there would be prints on the end over here, but I'm still just showing you the method that I use to end a job.
You see the paper coming through the tunnel over here.
Didn't break anything down.
And so once we reach that point, you're basically good to go and you're done with it. Okay, so we've reached the end of the job. I kind of let that slip a little bit, but that's fine. And that's basically it. That was the job. It's rolling itself up here. We're gonna come back over here. We're back in manual mode. We're just gonna leave fan on if we are continuing to do more jobs, and that was the process.